This is the Chamber Chat Podcast, the show dedicated to chamber professionals to spark ideas and to get actionable tips and strategies to better serve your members and community. Hello, Chamber Champions. Welcome to Chamber Chat Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burton, and it's my goal here on the podcast to introduce you to people and ideas to better help you serve your chamber members and your community. Our title sponsor is Community Matters, Inc. With nearly 20 years in the chamber industry and over 100 media awards presented to their chamber partners, Community Matters provides the R&R that every chamber needs, revenue and recognition. When it comes to publishing a chamber map, directory, or community guide, Community Matters has a trusted experience to help your chamber accomplish your goals. With different advertising sales models and publication styles, Community Matters will help you create a non-dues revenue machine. Let's hear from Becky Womble, President and CEO of the Bastrop Chamber, to hear about her experience using Community Matters.
I've been using Community Matters for probably 6 or 7 years now. And in a previous life, I sold commercial printing. So I can highly recommend Community Matters because it's a complete turnkey job for any busy chamber exec. Basically, you give them a membership list, and from there, they contact your members, and it's no high pressure sales or anything. And it really is a complete turnkey job from start to finish. And it's a wonderful, beautiful printed product whenever you're finished. And I'm very sold on Community Matters. And with a printing background, big endorsement for me.
To learn how Community Matters can support your chamber with your next publication, please visit communitymattersinc.com/podcast to request your free media kit and request a proposal to find out what kind of non-dues revenue you can generate. Our guest for this episode is Brian Bondy. Brian has been with the Granbury Chamber of Commerce in Texas since April 2021. Brian has been a part of the Chamber of Commerce work in Texas and Missouri for over 30 years, serving as a volunteer, committee member, committee chair, board member, and board officer before transitioning to the other side of the desk with the Northwest Communities Chamber of Commerce in suburban St. Louis. He's been a Rotarian for more than 20 years, having served as club presidents in both Kerrville and San Marcos, Texas, and is also a Paul Harris Fellow. Brian has graduated from Stephen F. Austin State University and also has earned the IOM designation through his participation and graduation from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Institute. Brian and his wife, Jean, have 2 adult daughters, Lauren, who teaches in Mansfield ISD, and Erin earned her master's and PhD from Washington University in St. Louis, and 1 awesome granddaughter, Emery, who turned 2 in July. But Brian, I'm excited to have you with us today here on Chamber Chat Podcast. I'd love to give you an opportunity to say hello to all the Chamber champions that are out there listening and share something interesting about yourself so we can all get to know you a little better.
Brandon, thank you so much for having me on the show. Really appreciate it. There's really not a lot to me other than I can truly say that my claim to fame was I was a contestant on The Price is Right. And I got up on stage with Bob Barker a long time ago, did not win the car. And, I still have to live that down to this day.
That is awesome, though. Not many people can say that. I mean, I guess a lot of people can, but not many people can say that they've been on The Price is Right.
Exactly. That's right.
That's cool. So maybe just a side tangent. My wife's uncle, he was on Price is Right in the 80s. So with Bob Barker, and he did win the Showcase Showdown, won it all. And then like 30 years later, it was just a couple years ago, actually, that he was back on again with Drew Carey and won both showcases.
Oh my.
So he's been on twice and won it all twice. And I don't know many people who have done that, but it was pretty amazing. And he shared, pictures of, when he was on in the 80s and then just a couple of years ago, and it was pretty neat.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
My true memory of it wasn't the show itself, but immediately after the taping was over, all of the contestants that got on stage that won something were immediately taken behind stage to fill out the appropriate tax forms.
Right. The important stuff, right?
Yeah, well, to them it was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's neat. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And why don't you take a few moments and tell us a little bit about the Granbury Chamber, just to kind of set the stage for our conversation today, to give everyone an idea of the size of the chamber, scope of work, staff, budget, that sort of thing before we dive into our discussion.
So the Granbury Chamber was founded in 1952, and we are about 40 miles southwest of Fort Worth, Texas. We are a true standalone community, even though a good portion of our workforce commutes to the Metroplex. We have just under 900 members and a budget of a little over $600,000. We do not engage in economic development with the city or county, and we do not engage in any of the Visitors Bureau with the hotel motel tax dollars. So everything that our chamber generates is done through membership investments, our special events, and our programming and marketing events. And the chamber that we like to say is we're the largest chamber in the smallest city in Texas.
Yeah, no, that's true. And you guys do definitely have things working on all cylinders. And they've been blessed to do some work with you guys down there in the Granbury Chamber, and love the community, and you guys are rocking it. So keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
As we get into our topic today, I think it's a very relevant topic for chambers across the country. And as we talk about the need and value in chambers promoting themselves. And very often chambers don't want to toot their own horn, or it may feel a little awkward to be, I don't know, self-promotion tends to have some negative context to it. But I think with the chamber, self-promoting is not so much the chamber necessarily as it's promoting your members and activities and the benefits and the ways that you can promote your members. So I'm super interested to hear your spin, your angle on this as soon as we get back from this quick break. Are you looking for a year-round, affordable, and timely shop local campaign for your chamber or CVB? Look no further. Build a custom Eat, Shop, Play mobile app with App My Community by visiting appmycommunity.com/chamberchat. App My Community mobile apps are not just simple membership directory listings. They provide many more capabilities to engage with your community. Provide your residents with a robust events calendar. Partner with a local fair, festival, or farmers market to provide a schedule, map, and other resources to promote the event. Run a small business Saturday campaign any time of the year using built-in scavenger hunts. Allow your membership to communicate directly to their customers via push notifications. Your App My Community mobile app will be a unique member benefit, allow you to generate non-dues revenue with sponsorship opportunities, and best of all, provide a valuable resource to your community. Please visit appmycommunity.com/chamberchat now to receive 10% off your first year of an App My Community mobile app. Are you a community leader or chamber of commerce looking to grow your non-dues revenue around your core community? Are you in an area not already served by a chamber of commerce? Look no further than Chamber Nation's new platform, Pipily. Pipily is a perfect solution for adding commerce to areas where a chamber may not exist, or to expand the reach of a regional chamber. With Pipily, you can easily connect with local businesses and promote your services to a wider audience. Don't miss out on this opportunity to expand your reach and increase your revenue. Visit richardscalendar.com to learn more about Chamber Nation and Pipily today. All right, Brian, we're back. So tell us, how does the Granbury Chamber approach the idea of promoting the chamber? As I mentioned before the break, there's that idea of self-promoting maybe has that negative context, but I don't believe it has to be that way, and I don't think you believe that either. So what's your guys' approach to it?
So just by way of background, for years and years, Chambers focused almost exclusively on their members. And there's nothing wrong with that. Quite frankly, that's a big part of what our mission is to help our businesses grow and get better. And tooting their horns is a big part of how we grew. But the worst thing in the world that I have heard over the years is I had no idea the Chamber could do that because we don't get our message out.
Or what does a chamber do, right?
Right, exactly. And how many recordings have you done over the years that have said that exact same thing? Well,
Maybe. Yeah.
our aim is not necessarily to put an end to that, but at least put a dent in it. And I'll just start with when we moved to Granbury, great community, great chamber of commerce, but the messaging had been totally lost in the COVID translation, right? So not only did we take the steps to rebrand the chamber, create a new logo, build a new website, but we really did hit on the idea that it's time to promote ourselves. And that involves a lot of social media, because let's face it, back in the day, you had a couple of options. You could promote yourself through your newspaper, maybe some radio, but for the most part, doing any kind of television or video was really kind of out of the realm of realistic, unless you were a metro chamber of commerce with especially deep pockets. The advent of relatively inexpensive video opportunities, as well as social media, chambers should be jumping on this right now.
Absolutely. So as you guys take that approach, what is the type of messaging you tend to get out as you or maybe some of the recent campaigns maybe that you guys have put out there to promote the chamber and the work that you guys are involved with?
So I'm really excited that we're having this conversation today because within the next week or so, we're going to be rolling out a testimonial campaign. In fact, we're going to roll it out at our banquet at the end of January. And it's essentially, we recorded probably 24 people at our marketing firm's headquarters. And we wanted them to say, what's the one word that makes you think of the Chamber of Commerce? And the beauty of this is you're going to get a different word from every person that we talk to. And that's going to be an opportunity for us to toot our horns that says it's not just about networking. It's about advocacy. It's about marketing. It's about relationships. It's about going the extra mile. It's about caring about the community. And so I'm talking about chambers have to be willing to step up to the plate to promote themselves.
Yes, I love that. The whole idea of testimonials in general. I mean, you're able to generate great feedback, one, so you can learn, the impact you're making on your chamber members, but then you're able to see where they see the value in the chamber. So you can, take that information you get from them, lean in a little heavier, or maybe find those areas that you feel like you're doing some positive work, but nobody's mentioning that. And maybe you need to lean in a little harder, or maybe you scrap that piece of that work. Um, but these testimonials, then you're able to repurpose in several ways too. So you're capturing them on video, but then I would imagine there's a strategy out there to, unroll, some other posts, some other ways of sharing these messages that they're putting out there with their testimonials. Am I hitting on point with that?
You are nailing it to the wall, let me tell you. The beauty of having a lot of good B-roll footage is we can pull tidbits anytime we need to, right? And that's what I would tell the people that were coming in. Look, I'm not looking for, a 10-minute discussion. I'm just looking for a couple of sound bites that I can pull out, edit down, and use whenever we have something going on. And the real beautiful thing about promoting yourself is it's not coming from staff. It's coming from people who are already members of the chamber. They believe in the mission. And the message also goes out to those who aren't chamber members, why they should become part of the organization.
Right. So with these members that you'll be highlighting, I love the idea of being able to repurpose the content as you put it out there for the community to see, for other potential members possibly to see. Are you somehow identifying the individual, their company, what type of business they are, just to kind of give that flavor in the community as to what types of businesses you serve? Or what's that part of the vision look like?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. It's a small town, and most of the people that have come into the studio to do the recording are pretty well known. So we may not do any character generation with our first generation of spots, but we can see that going down the road as we create other content where we want to be able to identify that, this is our CEO of our hospital or superintendent of schools. So then it ends an air of credibility to the person who's talking. And that way the person who listens and sees what we put out there, they'll be like, oh, I never even thought about doing something like that.
Right. No, that's so valuable. Now, you had mentioned social media being a great tool for chambers to be able to get messaging out like this in an affordable way. What does the strategy look like across the different social platforms? Because I can see maybe having a YouTube channel and obviously Facebook, a lot of people are on, and Instagram and Reels and all that, the list goes on and on. But what are some of those things that you guys have thought of as specifically, it may be good just to hone in on this campaign as you repurpose content and take those tidbits out that you edit down. What are some of those ways you envision being able to maybe amplify these messages?
That's a great question. And, we're very fortunate. I've got some very tech savvy staff members, which is really good for me because it keeps me out of that foray and it's safer that way. Um, but we have consciously built a calendar of posts. Facebook, Instagram are our primary tools right now. We are setting up a YouTube page where we can take these videos and um, but we consciously post something 3 times a day, whether we're doing a spotlight on one of our ambassadors, one of our board members, one of our members themselves, and most of the time they're either live video or they're created in a reel. And we do that with our ribbon cuttings. We do that with our special events. And what we've seen over the last 2.5 years is a significant increase in followers, but even more so, a significant increase in the organic reach of our posts and a lot of shares that are taking place. And that just helps get our message out to even that many more potential customers.
Yeah. I often will think that chambers are built for social media, right? I mean, you've put up a post and you highlight a member. So you've got the individual who has an interest in sharing it, their business has an interest in sharing it. So that organic reach ideally should I mean, you guys should have very deep roots in the community by just highlighting your members and board members and ambassadors and all these different things that you just mentioned.
Yeah, the a really good example is we've started a in business summit every September, and it's 2 years old. Both years it's been a sellout, and both years we've used social media at the front end to promote our speaker lineup, and then at the back end to do a wrap up. And the views range from 6 to 7,000 post event. And so what we're learning is we're building this following that they want more. They want to see what else we're doing. And we're hoping to push that to those that are not necessarily members right now.
Yeah. So the organic reach is super helpful, super important. But we also know these different platforms are constantly changing algorithms, and they want to make sure that you're paying to play in a lot of cases.
Yes.
So, um, do you guys set aside a portion of your budget to purposely promote certain posts or to have certain campaigns that you want to, put a few dollars behind to get a little more traction?
Great question. And the answer to that is absolutely yes. And this is where we fundamentally changed how we want to operate. We know that we have to spend money to make money. And the cost per spot on social media is still relatively inexpensive. And if you're a chamber that really is trying to promote what you're doing, who you are, who your customers are, and who your customers could be, then even if you set aside $500 a month, you can see impact from that money.
Yeah. So for some businesses, and I say businesses rather than chambers, they can promote their product or service on social media and they can see the ROI, right? You put, a dollar in, you get $2 back. What are some of those key metrics that you guys look at as a chamber to see that you're getting a positive return on the ad spends that you're putting out there?
Great question again. So ROI on testimonial is going to be hard to measure. A lot of that is, we're building awareness, we're building confidence that the brand is one to be very reliable and one you can hang your hat with. Well, the flip side of that is if we are doing event specific, like the previously mentioned Women in Business Summit or our banquet or our 4th of July celebration, those we're going to see in potentially more participants buying tickets, more sponsorships. And that's kind of what I look for is, especially as we are event related, are we seeing bump in interest? Are we seeing a bump in potential sponsor inquiries? And I would have to say that the initial results are yes, that's exactly what's happening.
That's great. Yeah, and a lot of times we'll look at the likes and the views and shares, which are good. They make you feel good that it's getting the message out there, but some would say that they're vanity metrics, right? That they don't really bring the money in. But I think it's a little different with the chamber where you are so event focused and getting the awareness out there, driving people in to whatever those events are. So as long as you're able to keep track of attendance and ticket sales and revenue generated from these events, I think that's a great correlation to see that these the ad spends and beyond the money put aside for spending on social media, but the time and staff effort too to put in to build that brand on social media. It's good to have that return to be able to see that it's worth that time. Um,
Yeah, I
so
would
you
say
meant
that it goes back to the one of the things that I said at the very beginning. The worst thing we could hear is I had no idea that the chamber did that. And some of this begins to address that very issue. The fact that whether it's a special event or even a testimonial from a member, to have somebody come and say, "Hey, I saw that. I am so glad to know that you guys have the ability to do X, Y, Z. Tell me more." I've just opened the door to a potential customer, a potential member, a sponsor. That's where the intangible part of the promotional dollars spent begins to pay off.
Yeah. So do you ever have direct engagements with posts where they say those kind of words? I had no idea the chamber does this and tell me more. Or are they reaching out to the chamber directly, or is it when your membership person reaches out that they make those connections? How do you see these things kind of develop?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. It's interesting. We've had a couple that have responded in the chat line. Hey, can you send me some more information or reach out to me? And we've done that, and I think that's a terrific direct response, direct opportunity that came up. We also do when we do our candidate forums for the various election cycles, we'll stream those live on our Facebook page, and the engagement that we get from that, not always positive, but we're getting engagement, and that's a big part of marketing the chamber is doing things like that where we have engaged members and the community in the product that we're putting out there.
That's a great point with streaming the candidate forms. As far as getting engagement and algorithms like it when there's a little bit of controversy, right? So if you can get the negative and positive comments going in something like a candidate form, I think that's going to really help that organic reach and get it in front of the people that you're hoping to reach. So
Exactly,
I love
exactly.
that. Well, I like asking for chambers that are out there listening if there's any tips or action items that you might offer to a chamber who's looking to maybe take their chamber up to the next level. What might you offer to that organization?
Couple of things. Number one, I can't underestimate the value of a good relationship with your local media, whether it's a local newspaper, a local radio station, even a local television station. They're looking for content just as much as you're looking to put content out there. And we're very fortunate to have some really good relationships with our local media. And the other part of that equation is, we all have smartphones that have video and audio capabilities. You've got a marketing tool in your hand every time you're out there, and don't be afraid to use it because that's a big part of how you can make your chamber stand out with just a moment of talking to somebody with the recording on and put it out there. A, your member's going to love it, but B, people are going to hear you. And once again, it goes back to, I had no idea you guys could do that.
Yeah. So, do you ever see any awkwardness? You're talking to a member and pull out the phone. Hey, do you mind if we record? I know a lot of members love it because they know you're going to put it out there on social media. Do you ever get any of the awkward camera shy? Oh, no, I don't know. I don't have my makeup, or whatever. Um, any awkward moments that may lighten the conversation a little bit?
Yeah, well, obviously we wouldn't be human if we didn't have those awkward situations.
Right?
The reality is that, people don't think they look that good until they see themselves and they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And you've had that before. But for the most part, I would say an overwhelming majority are a-okay with it at the end of the day because they know what the end result is. They're going to get some
Yeah.
publicity out of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. And just to be able to overcome that and know, there may be those awkward moments, but in the end, it's to help that business win, right? Help that individual get their message out too. So
And we
I
both win at
love,
the end of the day with that.
yes, absolutely. So I like asking everyone I have on the show as we look to the future of chambers of commerce, how do you see the future of chambers and their purpose going forward?
Chambers have changed so much over the last 25 to 30 years. For the most part, if I look back to the 90s, we were pretty much networking based organizations. Everything we lived for was based on that. We've moved forward to advocacy being probably our number one focus. And that's where chambers going forward are going to have to step their feet into that muck. It doesn't mean they have to take positions, but they need to be able to inform their members on what's going on in their community or in their region because business and government don't always see eye to eye. The chamber is fortunate and should be fortunate enough to have the bully pulpit to be able to say, whoa, time out. This is going to affect a lot of people. The larger chambers of commerce in metro areas have been doing this for a long time. I can tell you that rural America needs to wake up and start doing this. It can't just be about parades. It can't just be about all of the events that we've done for 50, 60, 70 years. We're going to have to get in and get a little bit dirty. And that makes boards very nervous and it makes staff very nervous because it's something we're not comfortable doing. But all of my training tells me that if we don't, we risk losing our members' interest because the value proposition begins to decrease. And ultimately, just like any business, if we can't show the value for the investment, we're going to lose them.
Yeah. Well, and as we've talked about today, being able to have those conversations around advocacy and policies that are being put out there, it'll also help drive your social media engagement. So get it out there, stand up for your businesses and your community. And it may cause some controversy, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Now, you can lean into that and really have some positive effects and influences out of a little bit of controversy. So,
I think our members have come to expect something like that. And I think that as chambers continue to stay relevant in the coming years and decades, we're going to have to continue to evolve ourselves. We can't, it's advocacy today. It could be something totally different 10 years from now that we all kind of saw that was coming, but it kind of hit us squarely between the eyes. But that's part of how we manifest and grow ourselves is to be aware of those trends that are coming down the pike.
right. And I've seen in working with chambers and chamber members for several years, like you said, members come to expect the advocacy part from the chamber. And there's been chamber members that I've talked to that have expressed their frustration and disappointment that their chamber didn't advocate for their business when, you know, XYZ happened, when the road was torn up for an expansion and nobody consulted the businesses about the impact or creating a driveway for people to still access the businesses. They're like, where's the chamber at? They created an expectation that the chamber should be standing up for their rights and helping them be successful. So great point.
Yeah, and the hard part as you know, if you've talked to a lot of chamber professionals, and that is, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it, because you're dealing with a lot of interior political climates within each of the communities where that may be frowned upon. And so what really becomes important is for that board of directors and that chamber staff to be on the same page, understanding that, hey, get a bloody nose on this, but we're doing the right thing for the right reasons. And at the end of the day, they used to say there's no such thing as bad publicity. And I kind of can live with that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Brian, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share any contact information for listeners who might want to reach out and learn a little more about how you guys are approaching things at the Granbury Chamber, especially when it comes to promoting yourselves. What would be the best way for a listener to reach out and connect?
Obviously, the best way for us is through our email. I mean, that's probably the quickest, easiest, and best way. Brian, Brian, at Granbury Chamber, GranburyChamber.com. And of course, you can always call us. My office number is 817-573-1622. Look us up on Facebook, and we're getting ready to branch out into a few other platforms. But it's a good idea for if you want to see what we're doing, take a look at us either on the web or on our social media.
Great deal. I will get all that in our show notes for this episode too. And hopefully as you branch out into other areas of social media, there's going to be some cross promotion. So if anybody wants to follow your Facebook page, can see some of those other things that are coming on the horizon, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Brian, this has been great having you on Chamber Chat Podcast with us today. I appreciate you sharing your perspective, lessons that you guys have learned in promoting yourselves, and the great value that comes from chambers being a little bit bold and saying, this is what we do, and we're here to show you. So thanks for spending time with us today.
Brandon, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
If you are a chamber professional, please subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. When you subscribe to Chamber Chat Podcast, new episodes will show up in your podcast app each week as they are released. If you're finding value in this podcast, please leave us a rating and a review in iTunes. But most importantly, please share Chamber Chat Podcast with your colleagues that are in the industry.